Hello there, and thank you for the opportunity to join you today. In terms of a keynote, I wanted to focus on my role and all our roles as tech leaders in how we drive change, encourage our teams, and enable, and I mean really enable the business. Now that list might sound like a whole raft of cliches and fairly obvious. So what does that actually mean in practice? You will hear from Mark and Laura on what we actually did and how they did it, but I wanted to talk to you a bit about the solar system. What do I mean by the solar system? So from my perspective, what I needed to do was a few things. Basically spot that the planets had aligned. A number of things just came together spectacularly well. I spotted that, and then I got the hell out of the way and let the team do what the team do, and they will be taking you through that later. And what I mean by the planets, so constant review of our technology was going on. We're currently 13 brands within the boohoo group. One of them is PLT, that's on a separate tech stack, but the other 12 are on the core boohoo platform. We're constantly looking at that platform because it is effectively our shop front. And at the moment, we're on a version of Demandware that we felt we ought to be getting more from. And we were starting to plug in best of breed systems and applications, as well as having the Salesforce offering. So it felt like we needed to constantly review that. And I think it would be remiss of us as tech leaders if we're not constantly reviewing what we've got and making sure we're benchmarking it against next gen tech and what's going on in the industry. Extremely important, and it is our day jobs, to almost be looking at the horizon, what's coming over the hill. And if we're not looking at what's coming over the hill, then nobody else will be. So extremely important that we're constantly reviewing the tech and the landscape. So that's one of the planets that was happening at that time. The other one was the business being extremely supportive. Now, the business tends to get extremely supportive when there's pound notes involved. And where we've got to with our current platform was a linear cost model. So as we put more brands on, it was costing us more, and it was linear, so there was no economies of scale. We were also buying extra tooling, so not only was it linear with no economies of scale, we were also spending more on best of breed tools so that we could actually give the business what they wanted. So from that perspective, again, another planet was aligning around the fact that the business were more than happy to support the change, because we'd started to look seriously at the cost model of the current platform. Now then, this is the important one, the team dynamic and the talent. So as I've said, we were constantly reviewing our technology and our landscape. So Laura and I had been looking at headless last year. And it was on, we were flirting around the edges. We were starting to get to grips with what it might mean for us, and very much, toe in the water. What might we do? Mark joined us in October of last year, so he's our chief architect. It's a new role to Boohoo, and one that it took me over a year to find the right person. And I think bringing Mark in was a catalyst for Laura and I. And I think the team dynamic, as I'm sure you'll pick up, between Laura and Mark was extremely powerful. Laura and I absolutely could have delivered this, but I think it's just given Laura that extra person to be able to bounce ideas off, to be able to talk to, be able to really help shape the project and the program. And I'm sure that will come out in buckets when the two of them present in a bit. So that team dynamic was a real catalyst. And again, as leaders, as you're embarking on this, you have to make sure that you've got that kind of dynamic within the team, that they're going to support each other, they're going to be able to soundboard ideas, they're going to be able to get over obstacles and just work things through. We also have a huge amount of talent in Boohoo. I joined 2 years ago, and the team, we've really started to put new roles in, build a team, and put more of an agile structure around what we're doing. The guys in Boohoo liken our time ecosystem to being on Love Island. So apparently a day in Love Island feels like a week, and a week feels like a month. And the guys reckon that's like Boohoo. And I was chatting to somebody last week, actually, who's been with us a year. And he said what he's done in the last year is more than the rest of his CV of 10 years put together. So there's a real, we've got the talent, the pace at which we move, the dynamic of the team, huge can-do attitude. And again, I think Mark, Laura, the new guys coming in, the guys that have been there for a while, really stepping into wanting to do more and loving the way that we're now working and the opportunities was an exceptionally important thing that we had there that we were able to really leverage. So again, a very important planet that needs to align. And then a bit of a she who dares win. So we found out in January that we were buying the Debenhams brand. We decided it was an opportunity. Laura, Mark and I had been talking about doing a proof of concept on Karen Millen as a headless proposition and toe in the water, see how it went, see how it compared, etc., etc. Obviously, Debenhams came along and it was like, do we do a Karen Millen proof of concept or do we just go for it? It's proven technology. We've got strong partners. We've got a great team. The business is supportive. We know we want to move to headless. Do we just go for it? So we did. But there's a definite piece in there around favouring the bold and the brave. Our chief exec did the annual results talk to the business a couple of weeks ago, and he described it as bold, and it definitely was bold. We had limited timescales and brand new brand and business to us. It came along with marketplace and beauty, which were new compared to the other brands we do. And yeah, it's definitely but you have to be brave. And I think when all the other planets are starting to align around there, then it doesn't feel as big a risk because you've got the support, you've got the team, and it's the right thing to do for business. So, but yeah, there was a definite element of career defining moment in this. And then we also had our right to left planning. So interestingly, back in the day, everybody kind of rolled their eyes and got quite grumpy around right to left planning and how could you ever do a project that way? It would be doomed to failure and it's not right. And I think if you're supporting your business, which is entrepreneurial in spirit and extremely opportunistic, you will find that right to left planning becomes the norm. And we've especially found it with our acquisitions. We're normally tied up to when an administration period might be ending, or a TSA, a transitional service agreement, might be coming to an end. Or in the case of Debenhams, it was actually linked to Boris's announcement of opening the stores. So we had zero control as to when the Debenhams business, the online business, would be moving to the boohoo group. So we were always going to be stuck with right to left planning. But what right to left planning does do is it really focuses the mind, absolutely tests this whole agile piece around what you focus on and what you want to be true in how you run your business. And if you truly want to enable the business and the business is supportive, then you absolutely have to get into that minimum viable product way of working. And it's what can we do for the timescale. So we had numerous dates with MVPs, with sprints that almost took you to the next possible date and then the next possible date based on whatever the announcement might be. And so that, again, a definite planet that was aligning. And as I said, the business were very supportive of the MVP, extremely supportive, happy to make sure that what we gave them worked, but equally they were willing to help us around operational considerations, manual workarounds, etc., for that initial phase. So hugely imperative that they were behind us and supporting us with this, and very much a team effort across the whole business. And then finally, have I mentioned that the business was supportive, because without it, we absolutely couldn't have done it. And, the absolute drive of the business, and no one was looking at as if not delivering might be a failure. Everyone was rooting for the tech team to deliver this and helping us in whatever way, shape, form. So there you go. The planets aligned, I spotted it, and then I got the hell out of the way and left it to the team.
Hi, I'm Laura McKellar. I'm Director of Tech for Digital for the Boohoo Group. If you're not familiar with us, we're a huge pure play organisation founded in 2006. And as you can see from some of the stats on the screen, we're a big player on the online scene. We've always worked at huge pace and delivered phenomenal things for the business as part of the tech team. As you can see from some of the timelines below, these just give you a flavour of some of the things we've delivered in the past few years. So things like replatforming, bringing tech in-house, international expansion and acquisitions have been just part of the day job for tech to date.
Well, my name is Mark Elliott and I'm the new kid in town. I came in October last year and I did a role at the previous organisation, the Co-op in the UK, and put in a headless platform. So coming into Boohoo, Laura on the right here was horrified at the thought that I might be coming in and changing some of the ways we work, bringing in some new platforms and ways of working, such as headless. From my perspective, I knew there was going to be new acquisitions, and looking at the way Laura described earlier that Boohoo has grown, we needed to make sure that our platforms were fit for the future growth and scale. But from Laura's perspective, it was very much about not breaking the current business model and maintaining that status quo.
Yeah, there's a lot that makes Boohoo unique, and the tech team plays a huge role in supporting that. So for me, we just needed to focus on not breaking what makes us so successful. So in December 2020, we started thinking a bit more about what headless would mean for Boohoo. Could we support it with an in-house team? There's a lot of effort up front compared to some of the monolithic platforms. There are a lot of unknowns, and we really started thinking a bit more about what would be needed and what the pitfalls might be.
So we came back after the Christmas break, all refreshed, and we thought, you know what, let's try it. Let's have a look at trying to identify those unknowns, solve them. And at the time, we were looking at doing a rebrand for one of our smaller brands, Karen Millen, and we thought, why not actually try and do a proof of concept for that brand? It would be low risk. It doesn't even need to go live. It really was just proving out the technology and getting some lessons learned. So the next step was really about who we were going to choose as our commerce platform.
Yeah, so mid-Jan, we started looking properly into the RFP processes, who might be the big players in the headless game that we'd want to speak to, and a lot of thoughts about who would need to support that and who would help build that whole picture as a platform in-house for us. We had some long-standing relationships with Adyen and Ampliant, so we could really build on those relationships and engage with them on what it might look like for Boohoo.
So we started to run some workshops with some of the system integrators. And it really became apparent to us that the different system integrators worked in different ways. Boohoo is very non-process driven. It's all about being reactive, agile, everyone pulling together to get the job done. So we felt that if we went with a service integrator that actually had more of a process driven way of delivering, we would actually be slowing them down and they would get frustrated with us. So through the workshops, we decided that we'd work through with Kabiri. There was a particular session that was on Laura's birthday, and it made us realise that, you know, Boohoo as a group weren't ready to go with a really mature, process-driven technology company. So we were just settling into delivering proof of concept and working out what we needed. And Laura and I were called into a late night meeting with the CEO, and he talked about how we wanted to have an online marketplace for Boohoo. It was then he dropped the bombshell that we were buying Debenhams. For those that don't know, Debenhams is one of the largest, most well-known department stores in the UK. It's been around for over 150 years. And for us to be buying them was a real jaw-dropping moment for us. So we were in the middle of the lockdown at that point in time. And the stores were due to reopen on the 8th of March. And this was all tied into when we would get hold of their online site. The liquidators didn't want to stop their online sales while they couldn't open the stores. So what this meant for us was we had to get our site ready by the 8th of March. WTF.
So on that note, we launched into what we affectionately call Mission Impossible. So we had about 28 days to launch. We needed a plan. Debenhams as a marketplace was a completely different proposition to anything we'd done previously. And Mark and I started to think, how bold are we going to be, and can we really do this POC, turn it into Debenhams and get live in that short period of time? So towards the end of Jan, Friday 21st, we called in the 2 remaining integration partners that we narrowed down to. Debenhams News was still a secret. We couldn't tell them that it was actually going to be Debenhams.com that they'd be embarking on. We were still very much in marketplace mode. But then we told them we needed a full response by Monday. We needed them to guarantee that they could deliver for us, and they had to be confident in what they were presenting to us was doable, because it was such a big leap. And they really had to be confident that they were able to keep up with us at that point.
So the following Monday, 25th of January, I rang James Dye at Commerce Tools. I contacted the system integrators and turn on their TVs. At 8 a.m, the news story was breaking across the UK that Boohoo was set to buy Debenhams. It was on that day, it was all over all the newspapers, all on the news channels. It was absolutely phenomenal. I think the penny then dropped with the service integrators that actually what they were going to be building was the new Debenhams marketplace platform. And literally probably 2-3 hours later, the systems integrators were actually presenting to us their proposition and how they could deliver.
So week 1 in Feb, we completed the RFP process. There was a huge amount of effort with procurement and legal teams. There was commercials, T's and C's, just endless streams there of work. And thank you so much to all the suppliers who sped that up and turned things around in such a quick time for us. At this time, Mark and I also realised we needed to divide and conquer in order to get this done. And the focus was mainly around how we'd get this integrated into our existing platforms and systems, how we're going to build the website from scratch. And then we embarked on literally a week long of intensive deep dives with Kabiri at that point, where we pretty much covered every area that we thought we had to understand more at that phase. Then week 2, as we were then embarking on what we thought would be into the sprint process, lightning struck twice, and we got the news that we were also purchasing Dorothy Perkins, Burton and Wallis at the same time. And we thought, okay, we'll have a few months longer to do that, but that was also in the same period to get that live in April. So as you can read on the screen there, it was a bit of an oh shit moment for us.
So again, week 3, looking at these dates, it's hard to believe how much we were fitting into this time. So at that point, we'd already chosen our service integrator, chosen which commerce platform we were going to use. We'd worked out all the suppliers for all the things like digital experience portal, etc., search, payments. So we started to look at, well, actually, what is a marketplace? Because we didn't really know at that time. And, the horror kind of hit us then. It was very different to our existing websites. For example, with the PSD2 requirements, it meant that we couldn't actually handle the payment. We had to do it through escrow. We had to find a way for our suppliers to map their products to our taxonomy, upload the images, handle the orders, handle the customer services, the complaints. So we recognized it really needed a marketplace integration partner. So we went and spoke to Gartner, we scoured the market, and we picked several of the key players in the marketplace arena. They all had their different strengths and weaknesses. So after much consideration, we settled on Miracle as our partner and started to plan to take that forward.
So week 4, we're really in development and build process then. The store dates were ever evolving kind of goal for us, but our contractual date was still that we were going to be live on the 8th of March. So we really had to be ready for then. We were only going to get 7 days notice if that time frame was going to change, and it was just you couldn't bet on it. So we had to be ready to launch at that time. So it was an ever evolving kind of timeline on that basis.
So again, week 5. Lucky for us, it was a leap year, so we got an extra day in February, which believe it or not, did make a difference. But the realization started to hit that moving away for the Debenhams platform from something like Salesforce meant we had lots of gaps. There was lots of product enrichment. There was lots of functionality around the merchandising that we didn't have. So effectively, we had to build a mini PIM, as we call it, where we did a lot of that enrichment of the data and the products. So that was a whole area that we hadn't anticipated having to build. We also realized that as a marketplace, lots of the products and the orders would be going to a third-party supplier, so it wouldn't actually come into our systems. So we actually had to duplicate our existing OMS and contact center applications and change them to work in the new Debenhams marketplace way. From a website perspective as well, one of the things that we didn't have that we had previously was around pre-launch environments and having a really good staging and preview environment that the business could use to help with their merchandising. So all of a sudden, the scope of the work that we had to do was really increasing, and the pressure was building as we were getting close to the March 8th deadline.
So week 6, we were fully into the sprint process. We've got on board with the Kabiri methodology and ways of working with Agile. Fortunately, at this point, we were finding a few clangers here and there. Obviously, the speed by which we started the project and the deep dives and workshops were done in such a small time that we did find the odd clanger here and there, which involves some rework. There are a few emergency changes, overtime, building extra systems that we haven't thought about, and bridging gaps left, right, and centre, which was huge accreditation to the team that got that done. And luckily, like Mal said, we did get a few extra weeks in the end, which enabled us to be a bit more haste and less speed.
And then finally, lucky for us, and as Laura's mentioned as we've gone on, it was week by week, realising we were getting more time. Every week we had to be ready for go live. So we had that MVP ready, but as we got more breathing space, we'd add more functionality. And eventually on the 12th of April, as the Debenhams stores opened for a final time, we launched our website. Our partners, Kabiri, our testing teams, our engineers, our release management teams, everyone really rallied around in those last few days and hours to get the site over the line. It was a really positive day on the Monday when it got live. We got lots of feedback from across the industry, how amazed people were we'd managed to do something in effectively 2 months, and the speed that the site was performing, and the fact that it looked like a real fresh new start for Debenhams on the online journey. But we didn't have time to sleep.
We didn't. And thanks again to some of the other partners. There was big input from Ampliance and Algolia, AWS. There was lots of other teams that helped us get over the line. So as Matt says, a month on, we didn't take our foot off the gas. As soon as we were live, there's a big list of add-ons and additional features to add in. So there's a big channel of work to get beauty live. The marketplace integration is ready to go live any day now. And then we're focusing on bigger pieces of work like loyalty and promotion, getting the beauty club live, product bundles, and getting our mobile app integration sorted as well.
So thank you for hearing our journey today. We're happy to hang around now and take your questions.
Thank you, Mark, Laura, for sticking around for a couple of questions. I hope you feel fantastic after having spoken a little bit. We don't have Joe for Q&A. Joe couldn't stick around, but I do have a first question from the audience that was directed to Joe. I hope you can answer this. Joe talked about recruiting the right person to even start with the project. What made this such a challenge? What's so specific about the role that it was so hard to find the first person? And I think we actually have the right person here.
Yeah, so that alludes to Mark's role as chief architect. So we were actually very picky with who we onboarded for that role, and it was a long process, as Joe said. Obviously, the technical skills and knowledge and everything technical about the role was key, but it was also very much about business fit, team fit, and how he'd be able to adapt to the Boohoo way of doing things is how we coined the phrase. Because yeah, you have to land fast, run at a quick pace, and can you really handle what we're going to throw to you in the next 30 minutes is key. And I think we tried to convey that to you as much as possible in the interview process, didn't we, Mark? Yeah. I think that itself was a baptism of fire.
It was. I wasn't put off too much, but certainly through the interview process, it was really understanding. Boohoo's growing at massive speed. Every company I've worked for, they always say we're different, we're fast, And I remember in the interview, Laura said to me, "You've never seen fast. Boohoo's fast." And then, literally, within 3 months, 2 months, we were working on this project, and the proof is in the pudding. We delivered it. I think Boohoo is a very special place to work. It is different. You can see by the way it's grown over the last few years. And that's down to the people and the culture. There's a real belief that they can make anything happen, and they do make it happen.
What was actually the size of the team? So you came in, and then the team that actually worked on this Debenhams launch, like how many people? Like how do we have to picture this?
So The thing that's interesting with Boohoo is, unlike anywhere else I've worked, there's team structures, but when a job needs doing, everyone just rolls their sleeves up and gets stuck in. There's none of the politics that you see in other companies where, you hear teams saying you can't have my resources because they're busy working on something else. Everyone just recognizes we've got a deadline to hit and we've got to make it happen. As you saw in our presentation, and the same with the work that Laura had done with some of the brands earlier in the year, like Karen Millen and Oasis and Coast. There's a very fixed deadline. Some projects, it's an unmovable deadline, but we had a date that we had to hit. So we can't make that deadline. You've just got to make it happen. So from a team perspective, Laura, you want to talk a bit more about your team structure, and then I can talk about some of the others.
Yeah, so I look after the Java teams and the front end development teams, and I think people would still be surprised at how small those teams are. So Java pool is probably 8 developers. Some of them are quite new, and same on the front end stack. It's probably about 10 developers really. So then it's not a massive team with the amount of projects that are going on, and usually with these short deadlines, we've also got other projects working on in the background that can't be dropped. So we all just kind of run from project to project. But I think the key is on how we communicate as a department. So because it's small and we've all been working really well together in these projects for a while, we know who to speak to, and the communications are quite fast and fluent. So we can run from pillar to post without it causing much issue and constraint.
Yeah, what was really interesting, this was the first time I'd seen an acquisition at Boohoo, and I was almost sat back and was amazed that everybody across these different teams, whether it's test, development, just knew their place. It was almost, like watching ants or bees in a hive. Everyone just knew their place and they knew what they needed to do. There was almost this kind of psychic link between people to just get on and do it. And we had our stand-ups in the morning, and I think that the word is just slick. It just, it's a well-tuned and well-oiled machine at Boohoo. And what they can achieve is pretty fantastic.
This might be a bit of a leading question. I think I know the answer, but I'm still curious. You talk like this requires a lot of knowledge. Obviously, you had a couple of new people, but they, as you describe it, they all knew what they were doing. How much do you think passion in the team, like a drive to succeed, etc., kind of team spirit and these things, how much do you think that plays a role for succeeding with a project like this, especially on like running at this pace?
Yeah, 100% that's needed, and we've had it throughout the other acquisitions, and it carries on now, and we've never missed a deadline or not hit a target. So we've got that enthusiasm powering us behind, and I think it's also very important that we have that mentality with the partners that we work with. So they've got to be of the same mindset and the same driven, that they want to get there as much as we do.
I think
that's actually a good point. If I may, you have a couple of partners involved. How did you actually find them? Like what did you do to figure out which system integrator is going to work best for you or with you actually more?
So we had to move really quick, as you can see. So we'd already been talking to some of the system integrators, and all of them could have done the job. We were really impressed with all of them, and we got it down to 2 in the end. And it was really difficult to decide because we knew they'd both do a fantastic job for us. And ultimately, I say we're a well-oiled machine, but I think to the outside world, it can seem chaotic. There's not a lot of things written down. Like I said, this is almost a psychic link. People are doing things that the testers are working with the engineers. So we had to choose a partner that we thought could work with us in that way. And we are very informal. And I've seen it before where companies have got more process-based, and that works great for most companies. And that's what you need. You need someone to drive it through. But we wanted someone that could maybe be a bit more forgiving when we were slow. And there was times when we were really slow in delivering some of the API calls and getting that data out. And we needed someone that could be forgiving, accept that, and then work with us. And that's what we did really ultimately when we went with Kabir.
I think the key as well is that someone that could work and be happy to work on a lot of assumptions. So we went into the day one with a lot of assumptions that we then were still working out to some extent until we hit testing. So you've got to really just be prepared for that basis and confident that you can dodge a few last minute curveballs and still deliver. So that was key as well, really.
When we go a little more tech, and I'm curious, can you just like in a few couple bullet points say what was key for selecting the e-commerce platform? Like, is there a short answer to this?
Yeah, so scalable. Boohoo's grown at a massive speed. We are growing bigger than anyone else, and we've got ambitions to keep on going at that pace. We didn't want scalability to be an issue. Flexibility and being able to take that ownership of our customer experience was something that we needed to do, which we didn't necessarily have before. And also, we do go with companies that fit in with Boohoo. And it felt that, you know, with commerce tools and the platform and the way they work and the conversation we had, it was a good fit for our culture and the way we work.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, go ahead, Laura.
I was going to say the model seemed to work well with something that we could and eventually bring in-house as well as owners and in-house systems and tool set. And that was a key driver as well, that we can own it going forward.
Did you start, I think you alluded to this a little bit, did you start with system integrators just to, again, accelerate your success rate, kind of to just get a jump start on everything? Was that the main driver for having system integrators in the first place? Because you obviously have technology in-house.
Yeah, absolutely. The view was, we came in, the deadlines we had, we wanted that expertise, and we wanted someone that could work with us and help us build that capability. A key thing for us as part of all of this was to build our own in-house capability and not be so reliant on third parties for the long term with the growth that we had in plan.
I have one here. I'm not sure how much you can actually say about this, but given your speed and the engineering team, we talked about the whole tech side and how this whole commerce tech works for you, but all the other involved departments, legal, procurement, etc. Were they just a short answer? Were they just as fast, or did you just go around them?
They are amazing.
Okay.
Honestly, we must have done 6 or 7 RFPs in 2 weeks. They were working night and day. Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we do have to wrap it up slowly, unfortunately, and we're running out of time. Mark, you mentioned that you called James when the Debenhams acquisition went through. Quick reminder for everyone, James is gonna have a panel discussion later. Join now into the next session. Please remember there's a back button up there. Click this. Thank you, Mark and Laura, for being here.